How's it going, Vikings fans? Welcome into the Wednesday night Skull Experience with GG Sports Podcast, Minnesota Sports Talk. And this evening, we are joined once again by Wobby of Wobcast 2.0. Wobby, before we ask how you're doing, I want to say it. So we had you on here twice last year. One time, I believe the last time was like mid-season against the Jets. And since then, your channel has absolutely exploded. You're at 717 subscribers now. Did you have to do any self-promoting, or did people finally just realize Wobby was back in the game?
Well, I don't know about that. There's always some self-promotion involved in it, right? You guys know that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But we don't push it too hard yet. I think we got to get our feet underneath us and hit the ground walking before we push on the self-promotion too much. Let's establish something for a while, and then once we feel really good about it, maybe we can get a little more aggressive. But right now we're having a good time sort of figuring our way through it. You guys are already established. You've been through this part of the process that we're at right now. So we're learning, and we're changing course where we think we should change course. We're staying the course where we think we should stay the course. So we're trying to figure it out. We're not up to the level you guys are at yet, but we're trying to get there.
Yeah, we're big time.
I appreciate you guys inviting me on though, because it's fun to chat with you, and it provides more visibility into what we're doing. So I'll be looking forward to reciprocating the favor at some point in time when it will be beneficial for you.
Yeah, awesome.
And it's official. 3 times on this show. I had you on 4 times because once it was on Skull Live, that was the first time with Rap.
Yeah.
But 3 times on this show makes it official. Congratulations, you're a friend of the program.
Hey,
all right, good.
That's
the threshold, huh? All right, good.
That's the threshold.
Glad I made it. Let's hopefully it doesn't end here. I'll try not to wear out my welcome. I'm pretty hard to get rid of.
Okay.
I think the only one that's been on more than him is Johnny and Tanishka. So those are the 2.
Heck yeah. Let me do a couple shout outs here before we get moving. Sodak Kid, Wobby, Sarah late again. We were a little bit late, couple minutes late. We're good though. Wobby's right. Sodak, what up, Sodak? Can I get a hey bro from Wobby?
Hey bro.
Hey, let's go. Let's go.
Gary,
Sodak from South Dakota. Hashtag Skull, of course, just like every show. We got a Justin Jefferson rookie card giveaway. Hashtag Skull in the comments for your chance to win this. Like the video, subscribe to our channels. Go and subscribe to Wobcast 2.0 right now on YouTube. Subscribe to his channel, all that good stuff. Everybody in here knows how all this works. What up, Dan? What up, Purple Rain? Yogi in the building. What up, Dan? I said that already. I think we got everybody right now. So, Wobby, how are we feeling right now? How are we feeling in preseason? How are we feeling of the Vikings overall going into this season? Are we concerned? How are we feeling about the defense? Do we think it's at a point where we think Flores can turn everything around for us, or at least maybe put us in about the 20th spot on defense, or see enough progress to see a better team going into this season?
Well, not Jamie, a loaded question at all. Not a loaded question. Well,
I think Jamie, I like the sort of, I won't call it a standard, but maybe a barometer, a measuring point that you said, like, can they get to 20th?
Yeah, certainly
their goal is to, as a total defense or a scoring defense, to be better than 20th. But let's say that is what they are halfway through the season or at the end of the season. That would be probably good enough for them to be in it to win it in the division at the end of the year, if not better. Because I do believe this is an offense that will score 25 plus points per game. And so if your overall defense is hovering around 20, the perfectionists in the group, like Brian Flores, wouldn't necessarily be happy with that, but you'd probably be winning a bunch of games. And so I do think that they've made enough improvements there where they could do something like that, get to 20th. But I think their expectation is higher than that. And I'm not ready to say that they can climb much higher than that with any level of confidence. I want to see it first. So, I think there's reason to be optimistic that here's the deal though, guys. I mean, it can't get worse, right? So, I mean, really, it can't. And
right, that's what we say. So, I mean,
you were last year quite nice about the defense. You were nice a little bit. You kind of like I guess you were diplomatic about our defense last year. I
Well,
think.
Yeah, maybe I was, but I also recognize that they were changing schematically, and that's a big change. I mean, that's a big deal, and I
Yeah,
was
it was huge.
to grant them some time to sort of figure that out. But I think even the most patient of folks probably ran out of patience last, and it clearly wasn't a great fit. And
Oh, is that my hand?
I think what they're doing right now is a better fit. Now, at the end of the day, we're talking about Ed Donatel, we're talking about Brian Flores, but I mean, it's the players, not the plays. I mean, the players have to play better.
Right.
So they've made some changes on defense. They got rid of some players who at one point in time were key players. They got rid of some players who they thought would be key players, but never really came to fruition that way. So, you know, they clearly had an identity and in mind of what they wanted to become this offseason, and I think they're trying hard to do that. Really, the only thing I would kind of pick at that I didn't love, and I'm not in the building anymore, so there's more nuance to it now than I'll ever be able to realize not being in the building, but I don't like that Zadarius Smith is not there. And I'm concerned about their pass rush. So you know, we can talk about Smith missing time all we want, but you know who else misses a lot of time is Marcus Davenport. He misses a lot of time, and so does Daniil Hunter. So I don't want to hear that as a criticism on Zadarius Smith. So I think they're going to miss him, and I hope they prove me wrong on that. But I'm concerned about their ability to rush the passer. I'm a little more optimistic now than I was a year ago of their ability to cover. So maybe they can make up a little ground there by covering better, and it can cover for a poor pass rush. But I'll be very curious early in the season to see how they do rushing the passer.
Well, you already answered my question. I was going to ask you about what do you think about Daniil Hunter? But how did you feel? Let's put it this way: how did you feel about Daniil Hunter re-signing, and how important that it is to this team?
Yeah, Dave, I think because they lost Zadarius, I'm like, well, they must be trying to keep Daniil because they're not going to not have either one of those guys. So I thought it's just kind of like kicking the can down the road one more year. Like, let's just see if this is a good fit or not. And if it's not, then they part ways next year and they go. I mean, I think it's what's the cap hit this year on Daniil? Is it 20 million,
20.3, I think. Yeah.
I mean,
Daniil actually at the interview says he wants to, finish his career Viking forever. So he's saying all the right things again.
Right. And so that's the ideal scenario, right? He plays well. It's a scheme fit, and they sign him to a 4-year extension at the end of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, Daniil at 20 million is a complete bargain.
Absolutely.
It's just a little more than $1 million a game for one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. I mean, yes, please. So I give the front office a lot of credit for what they were able to do with the Daniil extension.
Yeah. And I think just bringing in a guy like Brian Flores is going to work wonders for this defense. And when we talk about the Brian Flores hire, my biggest thing with him is like, it's pretty, for me, it's a pretty easy choice for him. Because I like, here's your two options. One, you interview in Arizona. You're going to go be a head coach there. You're not going to have a quarterback. You're probably going to lose probably not going to win much. You're going to be the scapegoat. And at the end of the day, you're probably going to get fired after a year or two anyway. Or you go to Minnesota. You take a defense that was 31st ranked overall last year, make them look a little bit better, and you're gonna in a year, maybe next year, maybe the year after, you're gonna have a shot at some coaching jobs, especially if he does what we think he can do with this defense. So for him, I think it was a no-brainer decision to pass up on the head coaching job for now, and come into a team that's gonna have an offense that you just need to support with your defense, and probably going to get a better job down the road. So I thought the hire was fantastic. I know it was the guy that me and Jamie were into from the start. I know there was a little thing they wanted was it the Denver's defensive coordinator from last year that they were kind of wanted to talk to, but he ended up going to Seattle instead, right? Is that where he went?
Or did he go to Carolina?
I think it was Carolina.
I think he was. Yeah,
right.
That sounds more accurate.
But Seattle
that was the guy I was rooting for, and he went. And then Casey talked me into
Brian Flores.
But then Seattle had a defensive coordinator who was rumored to be tied to the Vikings as well. So I think, Casey, I think that's where you're coming from there.
Yep.
I think the way I look at the Flores being a 1 year and done defensive coordinator, I would say if you fast forward 1 year from now and Brian Flores is a head coach, wouldn't you guess that things went well for the Vikings defense, right?
Mhm.
So, I mean, and wouldn't
Yep.
you take that?
Yeah.
I mean, I would. And yeah, it'd be a bummer to lose a really good coordinator, but the guys who stay behind can probably rinse and repeat, you know,
Right.
and continue the track that they were on.
Right.
Again, it's the players, not the plays. So
Mhm.
if the players are playing well, because Brian Flores got them there, and he leaves, the guys who stay behind, they just keep doing what you were doing. And I think that's something that would be a positive outcome for the Vikings.
Yeah, because I even look at it last year. Like if we even have like the 22nd ranked defense last year, I think we beat the Giants easily in that playoff game.
Oh yeah.
And then, you know, maybe give San Francisco was just, you know, pretty good until their quarterback got hurt, but maybe give them a little push. But I think for sure with the, you know, top, at least 22nd, 23rd ranked defense, I think we probably would have won that Giants game. And at least you're looking a little better now, but still.
I think that what happened now, this is coming from someone who twice has said it's the players, not the plays. So with that said, I think what we saw in the Giants playoff game was the Giants offensive coaching staff, who the head coach is Brian Daboll. They learned from the earlier matchup. I mean, our guy Eric Kendricks was completely exposed in that playoff game. And that, if it wasn't apparent to anyone that he had lost a step yet, that playoff game where they made Kendricks run sideline to sideline with their offensive style proved it. And so I kind of think that was getting out coached. Giants offense versus Vikings defense as much as anything. With that being said, I do agree. If they're the 20th best defense in the NFL last year, they probably find a way to win that Giants game. I mean, Daniel Jones looked like Dan Marino. You know, so I mean, if you could have just done a little bit more to slow them down, I think you would have won that game. So
yeah.
I saw a really interesting stat. I wish I could repeat it verbatim, but it was like quarterbacks with the most wins since 2019, and then what their defense has ranked since 2019. And I mean, what Cousins has done to be competitive with win totals with guys like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady compared to what his defense has been relative to those guys, I mean, is really remarkable that Cousins has been able to win that many games with not that much support on the other side of the ball.
And I kind of want to lump Cousins into the next question here. We're talking about some more present day stuff. So it's a three-parter. How did you feel about Jordan Addison as a first-round pick? Did you buy any of the hype as that the Vikings were looking at quarterbacks, maybe Will Levis, like I bought into? And three, we're speaking of like the quarterback position in the future. What do you think happens with Kirk beyond this season? Depending if let's just say he plays like we normally think he plays, we win the division, make the playoffs. Does he stick around? So Addison, any buy into the quarterback in 2022 draft or 2023 draft, and then Kirk Cousins' future here?
Yeah. I didn't love that they took a receiver in the first round, but I didn't get loud about that, guys, because it became apparent to me that there was a plan for what they were doing at wide receiver. And I really trust, not just as a Minnesotan and someone who worked for the Vikings and might see the world through purple shaded glasses, but I really think that Kevin O'Connell has a great understanding of what he's doing offensively and what types of players he needs to do what he wants to do offensively. So I truly trust Kevin O'Connell. And he identified Jordan Addison as a guy he really wanted, and they went and got him. I also think they really wanted Jamison Williams last year, the draft before, and they lost out on him. And I think they were not going to lose out on their guy this year. So it's not maybe necessarily what I would have done, but they did it. And now I kind of, reading between the lines, I think that they might have found a player. I mean, I was always like KJ Osborne's the guy. Addison will learn as the season goes on. It might just be Addison right out of the gate over Osborne when it comes to snap share. The other thing is, before we go on to the other two parts of the question, really the wide receiver 2 in this offense is who? Really?
TJ Hawkinson?
Oh,
Hawkinson.
Yeah,
it's Hawkinson, right? So really that's who it is when it comes to target share. So Addison may get the snaps of a WR2, but he's going to get the target share of a WR3, and I think that's a really great combination for him. Mm-hmm. I think that Cousins is truly a mercenary at this point. He's a year-to-year mercenary. good for him. He's going to get paid a lot of money for the next 4 or 5 years to go year to year, whether it's with the Vikings or the 49ers or wherever he ends up going. It truly is going to be a year-to-year thing, and the Vikings are going to do what's in their best interest. I think they are positioning themselves to get a quarterback very early in the draft, like next year or the year after.
Yeah.
Because like the way Mark Wilf handled the question about Kirk Cousins diplomatically, that was right. Like, I'm the owner. Yes, the buck stops with me, I guess, but like I'm not he's saying I'm not a football guy. Like I hire football people to make football decisions.
Yep.
With that being said, if the Bengals owner or the New York Giants owner, they just signed Daniel Jones to a long contract, or the Chargers owner was asked, "Hey, do you think Justin Herbert's going to be here next year?" What would they say?
Yeah.
You're goddamn right he's going to be here next year. That's our guy. Like, he's going to be here until he retires. Well, Mark Wilf's not saying that about Kirk Cousins, right? So that tells you how the Vikings feel about Kirk Cousins long term.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think position with Kirk Cousins, I agree that it does seem like next year. I mean, obviously contract is over. I think we go in this draft and find the quarterback future. I wouldn't mind at this point. I was kind of against any idea of an extension, in my opinion, as far as Kirk Cousins goes. But if Kirk Cousins has a really good year and we do go and grab that first round quarterback, I don't know how much Kirk Cousins will cost going forward, but it could be a possibility that he still would be our best bet for maybe a couple years instead of going find some other veteran or whatever we would do in place, unless we got a guy we went so high up that we're going to start this quarterback.
I think that's
day one.
Right, Jamie. Yes. But I think that is really the only way to do it. I think.
I think so. I mean, in my mind, I think we got to go for it. If we're going to go for it, we got to go for it. We can't just wait around for, a late first round pick, second round pick, third round quarterback guy. If we're going to really go try to find that quarterback that's going to succeed Kirk Cousins, I feel like we got to go and make a real attempt and go up. Obviously, assuming that we're going to be, I think I'd be very surprised if we're not a playoff team, if we're not a 10-win team. I think we're going to have a better team than we did last season. So obviously we're going to have a pick in the 20s, or, if I want to be really bullish, 32. But
I think you're right. It's going to be a 20 plus.
So we're going to be spending a lot of capital to move up, pretty much is where I was going with that.
Right. And I think you don't know your ability to do that. I don't think you know until it's time to do that. You know what I mean? I mean, it like the Bears moved out of early in the first round. The Bears moved out of there because they had Justin Fields. But if the teams that are up there don't have a guy, they're not. Yeah. You're not going up there. You're not moving. They're going to keep that pick. So I really truly think they don't know if Cousins is going to be here next year or not. I think they would say if it were up to us, we would have a high enough draft pick without losing 13 games. We'd have a high enough draft pick where we take a kid next April, next May, who's our guy. That's I think what they would choose.
Yeah. And I think that like the team, one of the teams to watch here, like especially for trade pieces, is going to be Arizona, because there's a good chance they could have the 1-2 pick next year. And if they feel like moving on from Kyler Murray, like they could draft Caleb Williams, Drake May, whoever at 1. And then at 2, you have some options for trades, so I think that's a team that's going to be really interesting to watch this year when it comes to quarterbacks. And obviously outside of those top 2, I know there's other names that are going to be in that first round conversation. Like I'm hearing Bo Nix's name come up a lot.
Yep.
You got Quinn Ewers out of Texas. You got who's the Michigan kid, JJ McCarthy. Mm-hmm. And then the one other kid whose name I just can never remember that people we've seen him mentioned in the chat here a lot. People that they're high on. I just can't think of what his name was.
And I'm not sure either. But I want to go back to something that Jamie said, where it's like even if you get one of these guys, Kirk Cousins might still be a better option. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, that's true. I agree with that. I think it's unlikely that next year at this time, the Vikings could have someone not named Kirk Cousins who would truly be a better option to win week 1 of the 2024 season than Kirk Cousins. I think that's really unlikely. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't go that direction.
Right.
because you don't want to put all your chips in the middle for week 1 of 2024. You want to put all your chips in the middle for all the weeks in all the seasons from 2024 to 2035. Right.
And, like,
that's
and-
what
Yeah.
you want to do.
And I kind of look at, like, I mean, obviously it was a different situation, but, like, if you look at the Chiefs, that's kind of what they had. They had a guy in Alex Smith who won them their how many straight divisions,
Yeah.
10, 12, 13 wins, however many years in a row, and
Yeah.
they still made a move and took a swing at Patrick Mahomes behind him. And then like if you do sign Kirk to an extension, and this time you'd hope there'd be a no trade clause, and that quarterback exceeds expectations and he's ready to go year 2, you make a move, someone's going to trade you something for Kirk Cousins, you make that trade, and boom, you got your guy starting. I mean, I know it's hard to bring up a situation that involves Patrick Mahomes because Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, but
Yeah.
the Chiefs kind of, I always say they were in that same scenario where they had a good team, they were winning. Alex Smith couldn't get him over the hump. They took a swing at a guy and it worked out for him, and they made the trade with the top guy, and you got a young kid, and look what Patrick Mahomes has become. So, I mean, obviously you can't expect that with every quarterback because Patrick Mahomes is special, but kind of the same scenario the Vikings could see themselves in if they take a swing at a guy they like, but they don't need to go up to 1 or 2 to get him. If it's one of those guys you could get in the mid rounds, because as you know, quarterbacks always get overdrafted, but I kind of look at that game plan if to be an option.
Yep.
Hey, Wobby, I want to ask you a question of like an observation that I made about the previous GM and our current one. Spielman was really big on signing our guys, right? And it's to me, it seemed like he did it earlier in the offseason, right? Like he went and grabbed the guys he wanted, and we kind of knew early on. It seems like Kwesi is almost like knows when to hold them, knows when to fold them, holding his cards tight to his vest. We're all the way up to the camp, and Danielle Hunter gets signed, and we're still talking about Reisner, and we're still trying to plug holes. We didn't extend TJ Hawkinson, we didn't extend Kirk Cousins, we didn't extend Justin Jefferson. All these things that we thought were going to happen haven't happened yet. And I kind of feel like that's kind of like a little bit different. And tell me if I'm wrong. Do you feel like those styles of a GM, there's a little bit of a difference there?
I think that's circumstantial. I think that's a product of Kwesi being early in the tenure still. I think he's still filtering through jettisoning the guys he doesn't want, but keeping the guy. He hasn't given anyone a long-term contract, right? Unless I can't. Has anyone gotten a multi-year extension?
No.
No one has, right?
Nope.
All he's
I
done
didn't
is
think
gotten
about
rid
that.
of guys.
Well, and like and any of his signings that were more than a year, there's outs after the first year, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So
even with our center, we could probably get him around, get rid of him after his first year of his contract.
yeah. So I think he's truly operating on a year-to-year basis right now on a lot of these guys because he knows Darrisaw's got to get paid, Hawkinson's got to get paid, and Jefferson's got to get paid.
Right.
He knows that. So Kendricks is gone, and Dalvin is gone, and Thielen is gone, and Hunter will bend a little bit and give him one more year. And all these other free agents, Marcus Davenport, 1-year deal, if I'm not mistaken. So I think he's being very
Oliver too. Yeah.
conservative. Was Oliver a 1-year deal?
Yeah.
Was he?
No, he was
was
a
it-
3
was it
year
two?
deal, I'm pretty sure.
Was it
Yeah.
3? Never
And
mind.
Murphy,
I'm
Murphy
mistaken on
wasn't.
that.
Murphy was more than a 1, I believe.
Well, yeah,
Yep.
but I think with Murphy
he's
and
new.
Davenport, there's early
Yeah.
outs.
Oh, yeah,
with the
true.
contract.
Yeah, he's new. It's not
Yeah.
extension.
Oh, yeah,
It's
and
not
it's
a
not
like
roster.
like
yeah.
like Murphy is one of Kwesi's guys now,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yep,
he's
yep.
like he wasn't here with Spielman and Zimmer. We brought him in from the outside. That's my guy. We're gonna give him a long-term deal.
3 year
But he's like,
21 for Oliver. My bad.
yeah, Hunter wasn't, Kendricks wasn't, Thielen wasn't, Dalvin wasn't. Like so, but
What's
we're
Harry's
gonna-
contract? Is Harry 1 year?
Well, it was yeah. I think it was
I
like a
think
pay
he's
cut almost,
at the
wasn't it?
point in
Or-
his career where everything's a 1-year deal for
Yeah.
Harry now.
Yeah,
you know what
pretty
I mean?
much,
So
like,
you
yeah.
might
Which
you might
Harry?
have in those fake years at the end of it, so you can spread cap hits out. But I mean, he's year to year.
Yeah.
Which
just like
Harry
Phillips.
though? Nikhil Harry or Harrison
Nikhil
Smith?
Harry, of course.
or Harrison Phillips.
Harrison
yeah.
Phillips. One question I want to actually switch into, what's going on right now, which tomorrow night is the first football Vikings action of the offseason and the preseason. But we'll get this one question answered real quick if I can find it right there. Back to Cousins real quick. Does Wobby think Cousins is a top 5 15 quarterback?
Yeah, I think he's in the top 15.
Top 15.
Jamie,
Would you put him in the top 10?
He's right there for me. I think he's in that. You can argue that he's
number 10.
Well, yeah, but I think you can argue that he's 7 or 8, and someone could be a hater and say he's 12, and I think they both would have compelling arguments.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other players,
it's tough. Everybody's talking about this offseason.
The other players had him at QB 6 in the top 100 players.
Yeah. And I don't hate that. And that's great for him. And I think peak Kirk Cousins, he is that. But he's not, always peak Kirk Cousins. And it's just it's a high level no man's land quarterback situation. It's like he's not Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert. He's not that, but he's not, Ryan Tannehill and Geno Smith and Derek Carr. Like he's above those guys, but he's not the top tier.
Right.
He's just kind of, and you don't want to be there. You really don't. You want to be in the top tier, or you want to be as low as it goes so that you're going to have the first overall pick. So you get to a chance at a top tier guy. So
yes.
And that's why I think the Vikings aren't committing to him. That's why Mark Wilf gets behind the microphone and gets asked about him and doesn't, put his foot down and pound the table and say, that's my guy. I love him. That's my quarterback. Because he doesn't feel that way about him.
Yeah. Right.
But I will say that's my favorite thing about Mark Wilf too. Like listening to everything he said, and I've said this about the Wilfs for years when it comes to Minnesota sports. I do think they're the best owners in the state because he just kind of said, he's like, we give our front office all the resources they need to go make us a competitive football team. He's like, like you said, he's like, I keep myself out of it. I let them make the decisions, but we give them any resources they want to go make these decisions.
Right.
So that's
all the way down to the facility in general.
Oh, right. That too.
This offseason.
They've made amazing investments in the team. And Wobby, did you ever get to meet the Wilfs personally when you were working? I assume so when you were working.
Oh yeah. I know them very, very well. Yeah. I mean, when I started, Red McCombs owned the team in 2005, but the Wilfs had bought it that year. So basically they were the owners of the team the whole time I was there for 15 years. So absolutely. I know all of them. Lenny Wilf is a great guy. Well, they're all great people, but Lenny and Lenny's I believe part owner of a minority owner of the Yankees. And I really loved the Yankees growing up. So we would bond over that. And I would always see Mark and Ziggy on the sideline before the games and talk to them for a few minutes. And they'd ask me what I thought about, what's going to happen, I was very close with them, got to know them very well.
Awesome.
And I don't disagree with anything you said about them. They're very passionate. They're fans of not just like the Vikings, they're fans of football. They have business acumen in other arenas other than sports and football. I don't want to demean their commitment by calling it a hobby, but this is fun for them. This is their hobby. They make their money. Their bread and butter is in real estate, but they're very serious about their football team and they're big fans. So it's fun to be around them and fun to watch their enthusiasm.
Yeah. That sounds awesome. That sounds pretty sweet. Back to the preseason stuff though. So we talked about Addison, and you can touch up on him again if you want to, but who are you the most excited to see going into this first preseason game? Obviously starters probably aren't going to play. It's going to be a lot of rookies and maybe a couple backups, whatever, but who are you most excited? I know our chat, and they've already been writing a bunch of stuff on it. And I think our little group of content creators in general, we've became big Ivan Pace Jr. fans.
Yeah, he's one for sure.
Yeah, so he's one for sure. So I'll let you jump into that. So who are you most excited about for this?
So the three that I would ordinarily put Addison as number one, but I don't think Cousins is going to be throwing to him. Sure. And Jefferson won't be out there. Hawkinson won't be out there. So we're not going to get a real true sampling of what a Vikings offense will look like with Jordan Addison, but I'm very excited to see him play. If not tomorrow night, once the season starts, Ivan Pace for sure. Absolutely. And when the Vikings signed him as an undrafted free agent, I want to give him I want to give him credit and the hype is really cool, but I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised about Ivan Pace Jr. Like when they signed him, I'm like, this guy's probably going to be good. I don't even know why the heck he didn't get drafted. Does anyone really? Has there been an explanation been given for that?
Size,
just
I
his
think,
size.
was a big hit.
Does he have 6 toes or something? I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know.
I didn't think size.
The
would
only thing
be
I can
that
think of is
significant.
size and
I think he was a little
pass
undersized.
coverage maybe.
So
And even
okay,
pass coverage, he had like an 80 something.
But he was he was a unanimous All-American.
I don't
Yeah.
get it. It reminds me a lot of when we drafted Jamarcus Sanford in 2009, I think it was, safety from Ole Miss. We drafted him, and I'm like, I'm a college football fan, but I didn't know who he was. He was the safety at Ole Miss, like, I don't know. Who's the safety at Ole Miss right now? You guys know? I don't know. I mean, whatever, I didn't know who he was. So Jamarcus Sanford ends up being like a really like a core special teams player, and then develops into a starting safety in the NFL. And so this is happening, and I'm like, how did Spielman? How did Rick find it? And I look at he's the SEC's leading tackler during the 4 years he was at Ole Miss. And I'm like, well, I guess the best players in the SEC probably leave after their sophomore or junior year whenever they become eligible, right? So that's probably why they don't end up becoming the leading tackler over a 4 year period, because they don't play 4 years. And Jamarcus did. He was a senior when we drafted him. But it's like you look back on it and it's like, well, yeah, no duh, he's good. Like he was a stud in the SEC at Ole Miss. He was the conference's leading tackler over a 4 year period. And I think that's what's happening with Ivan Pace. It's like, for whatever reason, he fell, and he's going to be good. He's going to make the team. He might start, and he's undrafted. Yeah. So I'm excited to watch him. And then the other one is the running back, McBride, another kid who I know Rick Spielman and I agree on this one. I know why he didn't get drafted, and I understand that. But if you can work on that and make it not an issue on the field, the kid is an NFL player, and the Vikings got him in the 7th round. So I'm excited to watch him play as well.
Yeah. And then back to the Pace thing real quick. Because another guy that was another huge surprise undrafted free agent was Andre Carter. And I know he's coming back from injury, these last few days or whatever, but so far it looks like, he's living up to the billing as, beating undrafted free agent expectations for sure, but his athleticism and everything is showing up in training camp is what I hear. So what do you think on him too? I don't know if he'll get a ton of playing time just coming back from an injury. I'm hoping we see a little bit more of him as well, but it's weird. We got a couple kind of unicorn undrafted free agents.
I remember Zim would always jokingly offer the scouts, $100 or $500 if the undrafted free agent they were promoting and signed made the roster, because Zim's like, around here, all we do is pay offensive players, and I got to make do with, bottom of the guys. Find me a starter who's undrafted at $5. Like, so, those two are $500 guys, for Zim. I don't have a big opinion on Andre Carter. I think he plays a position where there's opportunity for him to become keeper on the defense, because I don't know that there's really at linebacker for the Vikings where it's like he's like Barr Kendrick for 5 years under Zim. It's like everyone's just competing for backup time there, right? No one's gonna overtake them for starting spots, but that's not the case at linebacker. With all due respect to Jordan Hickson, with the rise of Brian Asamoah over the years, I think both those guys stand to lose snaps and lose their spot on the depth chart. Someone underneath them performs capably. So I think Carter's got a chance to do that. I think Pace probably has already done that.
Yeah. I agree. Another thing I wanted to ask real quick is, what is your thoughts on, I think we had a question up here somewhere. I have to find, I think it was Gary's, on Jaren Hall. So how do you feel about Jaren Hall? I know he's a 5th round pick. Some people had him going all the way up to the 3rd. When you look at his tape, to me, it looks like he can really do it all. I think he has a fantastic running ability. I think a really underrated running ability. He just seems like a natural runner. So he's someone else that, like, obviously it's preseason. It's nice when you have any rookie quarterbacks coming in, just so you have someone to watch during preseason, the guy who throws everybody the ball. So what's your thoughts on him? Do you feel anything good about him? Are you any expectations, or do you think there's a chance he could be QB2 someday or even better?
Truly, he backup quarterback in this league. I truly have no expectation that he'll be backup this year.
Oh, hold on, Wobby. I think we're having some cutout issues on your end, maybe. You hear us?
Yeah, I do. I really don't have any expectation that he'll rise to the level to be backup. I think they identified Nick Mullins as the guy they wanted to be backup, and he's going to be the backup. And if Jaren Hall does something just unbelievable that you can't believe, and maybe it'll happen. I think back to the backup quarterbacks who provided the most value when I was with the Vikings were always veterans who were like another assistant coach on game day, and like could see things, could point things out, could look at the Polaroids, could look at the video, and it was like another set of eyes for the quarterback, like another assistant coach. And I think Nick Mullins can do that. I don't think Jaren Hall can do that. He doesn't have the experience. So my expectations are tempered for Jaren Hall, to be honest. Although I think from a physical standpoint, he's got interesting tools, an interesting skill set that he could develop into someone who can contribute. But in 2023, I think it's probably bad news if Jaren Hall is like a backup, and of course if he plays. But if he's like the number 2, that's probably bad news. Something unexpected happened with Nick Mullins.
Right.
But like I was thinking, like the most exciting thing about him, though, me and Jamie have talked about this a lot on our shows that we've done, is that at least it's a quarterback that this front office and Kevin O'Connell identified as a guy that they kind of wanted. Bring him in, mold him, see what you got. So I think that's why fans are excited. It's like it's not a big shot at a quarterback, but it's their first shot at grabbing a quarterback that was not on the roster at all, other than Nick Mullins, I guess. But you needed a veteran backup. But it was like their first opportunity at a young quarterback to see what you can do with them.
I think there's a circumstance going on too right now because of the rule change of being able to have that third quarterback on the roster.
Right. And
you make a great point about having a quarterback be that assistant coach. And it's already in some interviews, Cousins has complimented Mullins on helping him in certain ways, like the reading it back on the phone kind of thing, all that from the Netflix. But Jaren Hall has a unique opportunity because I think the rule change is I think he's getting more snaps than any third string quarterback we've had in a while. They're talking about alternating plays they're going back and forth, alternating plays in practice. And he's probably going to get a lot in the fact that we're probably not playing Cousins at all in preseason again this year, that he's going to be playing an entire half every game.
Yep.
We'll definitely get a chance to see what we have in him. And, there's always that little bit of hope. Like, you never know for sure. Like, what if,
Yeah.
At least there's that excitement sitting there.
Yep. And I think that's a good way to look at it. It's like, a scratch off lottery ticket. Like, I don't think this is going to be my primary income at all, but like, what if it,
you don't know?
I don't know. It could be $15,000 winner, right? So I think that's what he is. I don't think he's a plan.
Yeah.
I don't think he's gonna supplant Nick Mullins as the backup. I think with where this offense is in terms of its sophistication, in terms of the traction it's gotten with 1 year under O'Connell, now going with Kirk Cousins the first time in forever, he's had the same play caller back-to-back years. Like you want steady as she goes, and you want a veteran backup who can support what you're doing. You don't want a young backup who's trying to earn his stripes and make a name for himself.
Yeah. So
Mullins is on a 2-year contract, and he's got a dead cap hit next year of $375,000. So there's some investment in there.
And then we don't want to hold you up too long here, but we'll get a couple comments in here from the chat. One is Wobby's thoughts on Blackman and Joquelin Roy.
Yeah. I think if you're not there, this is where the preseason games are going to be great because there's going to be tape that all of us can see and watch. Not being there watching, it's really hard. I have a feeling that Roy's got a chance to be good.
Casey really likes Roy.
Okay, do you?
I
Why?
do. I was just because I guess last year they had said that like on a way too early mock draft he was like a first round pick, top 10 pick even. I just said after watching some of his highlights and seeing talk or hearing about him like after the draft process, I just feel. I mean, I said it in our draft review video. I just said like, well, I think this could be a guy when we're looking at this rookie class this year, be one of those like surprise mid round picks that we'll probably see some production from. And if not because of his talent, because we don't have a ton of depth at the position.
It's the depth too.
That's
Yeah,
true.
Which
at
is
nose tackle.
But no, he's the guy I'm going to keep he's one of the rookies I'm keeping an eye on this year. One of those mid round rookies.
Going way back to this conversation, that's the defensive line is still, I think, our weakest spot in our entire team, especially if you want to talk about pass rush. So like we did earlier, there isn't any proven talent there as far as the pass rush game. So that's something. I mean, he does have not a lot of competition for that spot. But from a positive thing so far, it sounds like Tonga is stepping up, which is good because we need him to almost as bad as any defensive player on this defense. I feel like to have that big guy in the middle. So I'm hoping, I think that's going to be huge, especially in coverage again and not getting enough, like you mentioned, if we don't get enough on the quarter pressure on the quarterback. But on the opposite side of that, on the O-line, we have a couple questions here. Does Wobby think the O-line can actually protect Cousins, or is it complete crapshoot? And I'll actually go because it's specifically the interior more than anything. We feel pretty good about our tackles, I'm sure. And then someone says, Gary says, Wobby, how much do you think Ed has improved that right guard this year? Would you make a move to replace him or wait and see? So I guess that's a whole thing on the offensive line here.
All right. So I think the key here is Ezra Cleveland. And
Alexander Madison's dad in the building. What's up, Darrell Madison?
All right. Awesome.
Darrell Madison.
That's awesome.
All right. Sorry.
I think the whole key is Ezra Cleveland. If he's in the plan, because you got to pay him. If he's going to make money. I mean, I know it's some people, their jaw might hit the floor when they hear that, but he is. Trust me, if it's not here, it's going to be with another team because he's good enough to make a lot of money as a starting guard in the league. So you got to pay Darisaw, you got to pay Jefferson, you got to pay Hawkinson. Is Ezra Cleveland, part of the plan? That's the first question. If the answer is yes, then I would replace Ed Ingram with Reisner. Right now, I would. I think he can still develop, but you're not in a position right now to let a right guard develop. Like, you're in a position right now to let some defensive players develop, like on the interior, because you have an offense that can score 28 points a game.
Right.
You're not in a position to let Ed, let's give Ed Ingram a chance to develop, and then he didn't. Sorry, he gave up another 11. He gave up 11 sacks last year, I think. You can't do that. Your offense needs to score 28 points a game. So if Cleveland's in the fold, then I would absolutely replace Ingram with Reisner right now. If you're not sure about that, and he might not be in the fold, then you got to let Ed Ingram develop, and I'd think about signing Reisner and trading Cleveland.
Okay. See, my thought with Cleveland is I've always been a big Ezra Cleveland supporter. I know my dad likes him a lot. Like, is there a feeling out there that like in a pass happy offense, he's just not, he doesn't quite have the anchor to be like a high level guard in this? Because I thought in the offenses of the past, with Zimmer's more run heavy scheme, I thought he looked really good.
Yes.
I mean, he's a tackle by trade. We all know that.
Yeah.
So and like a lot of times that tackle the guard, as we saw with Oli Udo, it doesn't always work just because the anchoring is different on the interior and you're going against those bigger guys.
Yep.
So I feel like, is that kind of something with Ingram as well, or with Cleveland as well? Like I said, I like Cleveland. I just, in this offense, I just feel like he's not a great fit at guard. I think he'd be better in more of a West Coast run heavy scheme because he does have the athleticism in that type of an offense.
Yeah, maybe those are good points. I'm trying to not write Ed Ingram off too soon because he's in NFL terms, he's just a baby. I mean, you got to give a guy like that some time to get better, especially playing inside like that where the big boys play. So I don't want to write him off too early, but at the same time, it's like this offense has got to go. We don't have time for training wheels on people on offense right now. Like this is a well-oiled machine and it's the heart of the team. So I would have a really short leash on Ed Ingram. I mean, there was some pass protection reps last year in games that was like, you can't really accept that. That's not acceptable.
When he allowed Kirk Cousins to actually make his drop back, not stepping on his feet a few times.
Yeah, right. So I don't know. So what was the question? Let's answer. Let's give a direct answer to the question.
What was it again?
Do you think Ed Ingram will improve at guard this year, and how do you feel?
Do I think he will?
Yes.
I think he will be better than last year, but I think it will still be disappointing to all of us.
Okay. And then overall feelings about the interior of the offensive line. Will they be able to hold up enough to keep Kirk clean?
It's going to be the Achilles heel of the offense. The only Achilles heel of the offense.
It's what they have to coach around. Like, you don't get Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson at every position, right? Like the 09 Vikings. I always remember saying this about the 2009 Vikings. You guys remember who the right guard was?
No.
Wasn't Cummings. Clemmings?
No. Because 09,
they had studs at every position except right guard. They got by with Anthony Herrera. Okay. And he was like mean and tough and nasty and confident. And he wasn't a great player, but he thought he was. And he had great players around him. And we got by with him just fine. Favre was crafty. He got rid of the ball fast. Like Cousins can do that. So I think you can make it work with Ed Ingram. You just can't be like embarrassing, but the interior is the Achilles heel of the offense for sure. I don't know how much better it can get. I think the best look is Reisner at right guard, Bradbury at center, and Cleveland at left guard. I think that's the best chance to be good. Is there
a concern that Reisner has only played left guard in the NFL, or
maybe, but it's Ed Ingram. I mean, you saw him last year, right? I mean, it was so bad. It was so bad.
So like you said, that's up to the coaching staff to work around. So does that mean, like, if we start the season and we go with our normal offense and you can just tell like this O-line isn't working, is that then where O'Connell needs to just be like, all right, we got to start moving Kirk around a little bit more then? Like, like design rollouts, or do you still just...
Well, something like that, Casey. I think some tactical thing to get around it. Yes.
And he's done well doing that. I mean, one of his superpowers I said was rolling out to his left. How many right-handed guys can roll out to their left and be as accurate as he has?
Sure. Right. And that was kind of one of my things about O'Connell is I think he's going to be a great head coach of this team, but he hasn't had a ton of experience being the guy at play calling. So, because we noticed that there were those lulls last year between the second and third quarters where we just didn't have much going. So, I think that's going to be his biggest thing is more consistency in the play calling, and can he get creative at the right times, especially if the offensive line struggles. And I think that's going to be the next step in his maturation as a coach. Like if you ask me, like head coaching, I second to none. This guy's fantastic, but I think he does have a ways, and that's not an insult because really he hasn't. That was kind of the big question. He's worked with some amazing offensive minds, mainly Sean McVay, but he hasn't had that experience of being a play caller. So I think that's his biggest spot to grow, and that's not a knock. I think he's going to figure it out, especially with the talent he has on this team.
I was going to give him a big jump in here too, because I felt like the running game. I think someone brought up the fact that we were like one of the lowest in the league in counters and trap plays, misdirection plays, and and that I think that the creativity in the run game was kind of lacking. But this year he's put more into it. He's brought back CJ Ham. He's went and got Oliver, who is an incredible blocker, absolutely incredible.
Yep.
Our receivers are known to block a little bit, like KJ Osborne, and who knows, Harry's a
Nikhil Harry.
and
He's a
Nikhil
big guy.
Harry is a pretty big dude. So who knows? We'll see.
Addison's been putting in some blocks I hear too.
I don't know about Addison, but we'll see. We'll see.
Hey, what up, Joe JD? Before
Man.
answering that, Wobby, let's do this one more time.
Yeah.
Giving away Justin Jefferson rookie card. Hashtag Skull in the comments. We're gonna run this pretty quick here. You have to enter this. You have to go and subscribe to Wobcast 2.0. I put the link in the comments here. Go over there and subscribe. All that good stuff. And yeah, we'll run this pretty quick here. All right. So back to this question. KOC. How do you feel about KOC as a play caller?
I feel good about it. I think he's I think he knows how to get into a rhythm. I think he knows the strengths of his team, and I think he's got good tools in the toolbox. So I like where I think you get in trouble with Ed Ingram is whether it's because you've got a 14-point lead and you're trying to run the clock out, or whether it's because it's 3rd and 1, whatever. When teams know the Vikings are going to run the ball, they can't run it. And when the teams know the Vikings have to pass it, Ed Ingram is compromised. When it's a situation where you could be either or, I think Kevin O'Connell's got an ability to coach and play call around the weakness of the interior. But in predictable situations, I think the interior gets exposed. So I am bullish on O'Connell as a play caller and a head coach. I think he's got something going. And I'm curious to see how he's going to incorporate Addison into the whole thing.
Cool. One more thing I wanted to ask as well. After yesterday they said that week 1 with the throwback jerseys, and they're going to have a Bud Grant patch on their jerseys as well as on the helmet. In your time with the Vikings, and I assume you did you get to meet Bud Grant? I assume.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
How was that from the inside?
He's he is just like you think he is, or just as advertised. I mean, he's no nonsense. Like, he would say things that it was like so simple, it was almost profound. It's like, yeah, that is in this world that is just so like crazy and complicated and whatever. It's like he just gets right back down to like the most simplest form of wisdom you could ever have, and it's profound how simple it is. That's like what I would say about Bud.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna run this thing. 1 second here. All right, who we got? Who's gonna win here? We got. I don't know if Sarah's in here. We're just giving it.
Oh, I saw a Soda Kid right there.
Soda
there
Kid.
I saw.
Boom. Damn.
I saw Soda
Let's
Kid.
go.
All right. Congrats, Dan.
Hey, Dan. Let's go.
My man, Dan.
All right. Any last question, guys, before we pop off here? What do you got?
Wobby, any final thoughts on what's biggest thing you're looking for from the preseason?
To stay healthy, and to let young players, to put young players in a position to play against the other team's good players. That's what I really hope for from the Vikings in the preseason, and to let the guys, the veteran guys, the established guys, let them sit. I mean, so many years in the league, we talked all the time about, is it better to play and risk injury, but to be in a groove once the season starts, or is it ready to let them all rest and you get to the starting line with your full cast of characters? And I ended up being on when we get to the starting line, I want everyone there. Like, we didn't go through all this in the spring and training camp so that we could get to week 1 and not have our running back or not have like, let them sit. There's 17 games. There's plenty of time to knock off Russ. So stay healthy, let the young players play against good players in the preseason. It just increases their chances of being able to help you out once the regular season starts. I think the first big game of the season is week 3 when they host the Chargers. Because no matter what happens before that, 1-1, 0-2, 2-0, that is a fork in the road game where you're either fighting an uphill battle the rest of the season if you lose that game, or you're kind of running downhill if you can win that game. I think that's because, just imagine if they're 2-0 and like you just beat the Eagles on Thursday Night Football in Philadelphia, no one thought you could win. All the analysts are picking the game, right? And it's Eagles, 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 Eagles. That's what's going to happen, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Right.
lost that game 4 months ago.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
pretty
then you win that game. Okay. Imagine that, and you're 2-0, and then you lose at home to the Chargers.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's like you're 0-0 now, right? So, and then conversely, you know, if you're 0-2, but you win that game against the Chargers, it's like we defended our home turf. You know, you can't be too mad at them for losing to Philly, right? Like, yeah, you lost at Philly, no
Short
big deal,
week
but you
too.
came back home and you won. You beat Justin Herbert. You know, you're back on. So I think to me the
Chargers
really the Chargers game is the first big game. That's the one where you got to really watch that, and that is like the first like measuring stick game. I think is the Chargers game.
Well,
Hey,
we forgot
to mention this earlier in the show is that we're actually having our first Skull Fest.
Yeah,
Northeast Palace in Minneapolis.
Awesome.
Is
5
Wobby going to
o'clock,
go to show up at Skull Fest?
So what?
Saturday night before the game.
Is that the 9th? Is that the 9th you guys are doing that?
Saturday the 9th.
Where's it going to be?
Northeast Palace.
Okay.
Right, guys?
Yeah, Northeast Palace.
I'll send you the flyer. I'll
Saturday
DM you
the
the
9th.
flyer.
Yeah,
Please do.
Yeah,
let me know.
Because we're there's going to be us. There's like 8 creators. We got a 12-year-old creator that Rap that actually did fundraising for that we're sending to Minneapolis. We're gonna have giveaways. We're taking up almost a whole row at the stadium. We're gonna
awesome.
Shout out to JJ.
Northeast Palace.
Good for you guys. Yeah, please keep me in the loop on that. Keep me informed on what's happening. That'd be, if I can make it, that'd be a lot of fun.
Sure. Hey, and feel free to just stop by for a few minutes if you want, man.
Yeah. Say what's up.
Cool.
Say what's up.
Yeah,
we're excited about it. We're going to keep it going every year. So we're hoping to build something cool at these home openers. So
awesome.
But all right, Wobby, before we let you go, though, one more time, go ahead and plug your show. Tell people where to find you, so your socials, all that type of stuff.
Oh, thanks, guys. Yeah, you can still find me at Wobby on Twitter, or you can find me on Facebook as well. But the show is a podcast. We're also on YouTube, but it's the Wobcast 2.0. We record usually once a week. I think it'll be a little more often here as we get the season going, and we're gonna focus a little bit more on like shorter content once we get down to roster cuts and regular season games. So we're trying to ramp it up a little bit. We're having a lot of fun doing it, but yeah, it's the Wobcast 2.0. Lots of Vikings content and a little bit of we delve into other NFL news, notes, and nuggets as well, but we really like to keep the focus on the Vikings. It's a lot of fun.
Sounds great. So thanks once again, Wobby, for joining us. As Dave said,
guys.
Third time here.
Great show.
Officially
a friend of the program, man.
Officially a friend of the program. Make sure don't be a stranger. Come back another time for sure.
I would love to.
Hey,
I appreciate it, guys.
This is going to be a good year. This is going to be a good year. It's maybe not as many wins, but I think a better team we're going into the season. So
I'm excited to watch it, see how it unfolds, and it's a pretty cool scheduling quirk for them is they don't play the Lions until week 16, and then they play them twice in like 3 weeks. So kind of a weird scheduling quirk, and probably those 2 games probably gonna matter. So we'll see what happens.
Right.
Absolutely. So everybody, again, thanks for joining. Don't forget to subscribe to Wobcast 2.0 if you're not already. GG Sports Podcast, as well as Minnesota Sports Talk, and we'll see you guys next week right here on the Skull Experience. Thanks for joining.
Skull Vikes.